Good morning, friends. It's Bob again, bringing you another reflection on this idea of being a people builder rather than a people deconstructor. That is, that you and I are people builders. That's what God has called us to do and to be, but that we're taking some time just to reflect on how that has worked in our own lives, because I think that a lot of times we miss it, that we life goes by us. We might go through a struggling time. Some things are actually God is actually working on some things, but we're not getting it. We are kind of comatose, or we have decided to retire ourselves from the process. So we talked about this idea of people building in the journey of life, in the trenches and challenges of life, and in the broken places of life. And I want to talk to you just for a moment this morning and to ask you to think with me about your life. And that is that when you have gone through these extremely challenging and I would call trench warfare kinds of situations in your life where you are being pushed, where things are being called from you that you just don't feel like that you have to be able to give. And God provides people in those times to build us in, to build into us things that He is actually working. And that I would say that one of the ways that God primarily works to forge character in us is He uses heat and pressure. This is the way that diamonds are made, is heat, pressure, and time. Heat, pressure, and time. And in those different things, God is building us and God is building something, but He's also in the midst of that time bringing people to build things into us. So as I think about my life, within the trenches of life, I think of three different people, and there's a ton, but in the trenches of life, three people. One was a mother figure in my life when I was in the college era of my life, and at one point in time, I was going through this struggle and this challenge, and I was getting pretty self-centered in the whole thing. And I remember her standing in the doorway and saying to me, "Bob, you just can't get your eyes off of yourself, can you?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" And that was like a grenade into my life. But as I talked to her over the next days and weeks and different things like that, my eyesight began to move from the struggle and the challenge that I was in, and from myself to out to the Lord, and then out to what God was doing in the midst of the whole thing. And she helped me to get my eyes off of myself and to know that that's just simply not a good way to live, to have your eyes on yourself all the time. So in the trenches, this woman put these things into me. Another leader in my life that's been really important, whose voice has been really important, is a guy named Todd Hunter. I was in an incredibly challenging season in my life, and Todd simply would not stop believing in me. I had stopped believing that God's call was on my life, that God was going to do anything with me in terms of ministry or anything like that. I was kind of resigned to just going back into the workforce and working a job. And I didn't think anything's wrong with that. I just kind of thought that I was done. I was done with ministry, that God was done with me in ministry. Todd simply would not let me believe that. He believed in me when I could not and did not believe in myself in terms of the call that God had put on my life. And I had basically given up. But I had some people who were with me who still believed even when I didn't. And I think that's really important for us in the people building business, is that we provide for each other sometimes the faith when we do, for others when we don't have it. When they don't have it themselves, and that we are able to impart, we're able to pick them up and carry them. We're able to be the Aaron and Hurs who hold Moses' arms up in the midst of the battle, that we are in those places. Todd Hunter was that. And how did he do that? Well, he called me about every 2 weeks for 2 years, just to say, "Hey, I'm not giving up on you. God is not giving up on you." And that message was loud and clear to me. Another person that God has used in my life is my friend Kevin Springer, who's spoken at our church a whole bunch of times over the years. Is that Kevin has, at different really important junctures in my life where I've been in the struggle, in the trenches, in the heat of different things, he has called me to respond with courage rather than with just giving up. Where I think there are those times when we're so frequently where when we are being crushed, when we are being challenged, when the pressure is on, when the stress is just too high, we just think, "I just want to give up. I just want to check out." And God provides people builders in our lives to challenge us to say, "No, summon your courage. You can do this. Now take a step forward in this whole thing rather than a step backwards." And Kevin has been that for me over and over again. Good friend. And I have been that, I think, in his life as well. But I need those people in my life that are people builders in the trenches. And so do you. In this pandemic, you need people builders in your life, especially if you're retreating and you're just getting into your own stinking thinking, and you're not actually taking a step out in terms of saying, wait a minute, God is still good, God is still working, God is still doing things on the planet, he's still including me, he still wants me to be a part of the things that he's doing. He is calling us and challenging us into that. Firstly, who has been in your life in the trenches? Secondly, what have they imparted to you in the trenches? And how has God used that? I want to ask you to catalog those things and pray those back to the Lord and say, Lord, I think I need some of those lessons, so to speak, even in this crazy time that I'm in right now. I don't want to forget. And remember, we are forgetful creatures. And in all of this, we are trying to remember so that we can walk with God in this time of pressure, because we're in the trenches as I'm speaking to you. Thanks so much for joining me today. Do that exercise. I believe that on the other side of that exercise is a lot of learning and a lot of transformation and a lot of trust that will come with the Lord. I love you. I'm praying for you and walking with you in this. Thanks for joining me today. God bless you.